Are you looking for an unusual kind of summer job? Something that blends danger, science, and raw wilderness? Imagine hunting invasive pythons deep in the Florida Everglades, where the line between predator and prey is no longer clear. For years, experts believed they understood the rules of that ecosystem. Then one discovery shattered everything they thought they knew. It began with a disappearance. A 13-foot Burmese python, nicknamed Loki by researchers, vanished overnight. When scientists tracked his signal to a patch of open ground, what they found made no sense. His tracking device had gone silent. His massive body lay partially buried beneath pine needles. His skull was gone. His spine had been severed cleanly, with no signs of struggle, no evidence of a chaotic attack. It looked deliberate, surgical. For years, researchers had operated under a firm assumption. Nothing in the Everglades could hunt an adult Burmese python. These snakes were apex predators, massive, powerful, and virtually unstoppable. Entire conservation strategies were built around that belief. But Loki's body told a different story. Something had not only killed him, it had done so with precision. When biologist Sarah Carver arrived at the scene, she immediately sensed something was wrong. The python's location was exposed, not hidden as a resting snake would normally prefer. The pile of pine needles looked unnatural, almost arranged. When she uncovered the body, the absence of tension confirmed it instantly. Loki was dead, and the way he died was even more shocking. The strike had targeted the exact point behind the skull, where the spine is most vulnerable. Severing that location collapses the snake's entire muscular system instantly. This wasn't random scavenging. It was a calculated kill. Whatever had done this understood exactly where to strike. The team quickly set up trail cameras around the site, hoping for answers. For hours later, they got one. The predator returned. It wasn't an alligator. It wasn't a panther. It wasn't anything remotely close to what scientists expected. It was a bobcat, weighing barely 25 pounds, less than a fifth of the python's mass. The small wildcat approached the carcass calmly, confidently, as if it had every right to be there, as if it owned the territory. At first glance, this seemed impossible. Bobcats are not known for taking down massive prey. They are stealth hunters, typically targeting rabbits, rodents, birds, and occasionally young deer. For generations, they existed quietly within the Everglades ecosystem, perfectly adapted to its rhythms. But that ecosystem had changed. When Burmese pythons invaded the Everglades, largely due to the exotic pet trade and events like Hurricane Andrew releasing captive snakes into the wild, they began dismantling the food web. Mammal populations collapsed. Rabbits declined by over 90%. Raccoons nearly vanished. Foxes disappeared from entire regions. The bobcats didn't leave. They adapted. Bobcats are highly observant predators. They study patterns. They learn from experience. And over time, they appear to have identified a weakness in the seemingly unstoppable python, the back of the snake's neck. Trail camera footage revealed the full sequence. The bobcat had watched Loki for over an hour, carefully studying his movements. It waited until the python was stretched out and vulnerable. Then, with astonishing speed, it struck, leaping onto the back of the snake's neck, biting directly into the spine and stepping away. The entire encounter lasted seconds. No struggle, no prolonged fight, just a perfectly executed kill. Even more surprising, this was not an isolated incident. Once researchers knew what to look for, they began finding similar evidence across the Everglades. Multiple bobcats, multiple kill sites, the same method, the same deliberate concealment of remains. In one remarkable case, a different bobcat was observed raiding a python nest. Instead of simply feeding, it methodically destroyed every egg, biting into each one and consuming the contents before covering the remains. This behavior had never been documented before. It suggested something profound. The bobcats weren't just hunting for food. They were targeting the source of the problem. Even more astonishing, the behavior appeared to be spreading. Younger bobcats in different areas were beginning to show the same techniques. Scientists suspect a form of rapid behavioral transmission, knowledge passing to the population far faster than traditional evolution would allow. In other words, the ecosystem was learning. But while this adaptation offered hope, the larger picture remained grim. The python invasion itself is one of the most devastating ecological disruptions in modern history. Introduced through human activity, these snakes found an environment with abundant prey and no natural predators. Their population exploded, and their impact went beyond wildlife. The Everglades is not just a wilderness. It's a vital water filtration system that supports millions of people. As pythons decimated animal populations, the entire ecological balance began to shift. Plant communities changed. Water flow patterns altered. The system's ability to filter and sustain clean water started to weaken. Scientists had warned about this for years. Population estimates range wildly, from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands, because the snakes are so difficult to detect. Despite various control efforts, the invasion continued to spread, and then the situation became even more alarming. Researchers discovered that the pythons in Florida were not just surviving, they were evolving. Some were growing larger than their counterparts in their native range. Others were hybridizing with Indian pythons, a closely related species with greater tolerance for cold temperatures. This development could change everything. Cold weather has been a natural barrier preventing pythons from spreading beyond Florida. If hybrid snakes inherit cold resistance, that barrier could disappear. Entire regions of the southeastern United States, wetlands, river systems, coastal plains, could become vulnerable, and there would be little infrastructure in place to stop them. Efforts to control the population rely heavily on human hunters. Among them are individuals with extraordinary skill and dedication. One such hunter has removed over 1,000 pythons from the Everglades, working long nights scanning the terrain for subtle signs of movement. The process is dangerous. Capturing a large python requires speed, precision, and physical strength. A single mistake can result in serious injury or worse. Yet even with these efforts, the numbers tell a sobering truth. The snakes reproduce faster than they can be removed. This is why the emergence of natural resistance, like the bobcats, is so significant, and they're not alone. Alligators have also been observed killing pythons, using their powerful jaws and signature death roll to break the snake's spine. Birds such as herons and hawks prey on hatchlings, reducing the number of young snakes that survive to adulthood. Slowly, the ecosystem is pushing back, but it may not be enough. The pythons are adapting as well. They are becoming more elusive, avoiding areas with human activity, even changing their behavior to evade detection. Some have been found in trees. Others have been documented swimming long distances through salt water. There is virtually no environment in South Florida where they cannot survive. The most urgent concern now is expansion. Hybrid pythons have been detected closer to northern regions. Monitoring systems using environmental DNA are being deployed to detect their presence in waterways. The goal is simple: stop the spread before it begins. Because if the invasion moves beyond Florida, the consequences could be far worse. Other states lack the experience, infrastructure, and public awareness needed to respond quickly. Entire ecosystems could be disrupted before effective action is taken. What's happening in the Everglades is more than a localized crisis. It's a test of how ecosystems respond to sudden, human-driven disruption. It's a clash between adaptation and invasion, between resilience and collapse. The bobcat that killed Loki represents something powerful, a reminder that nature is not passive. It observes, it adjusts, it fights back. But whether that fight will be enough remains uncertain. For now, the outcome is still being written in the swamps and waterways of the Everglades, where every predator, every hunter, and every surviving species plays a role in a battle that could shape the future of an entire region. If you want, I can tighten it further, make it more cinematic, or adapt it into a YouTube voiceover script.